Now, King Musa Xulu ascended the throne once held by his late father, King Zwelithini, who died in March 2021. Today's event was the first South Africa has witnessed in more than 50 years, and it comes after a year of bitter feuding over the royal succession that has spilled into the courts. Does government recognize this government recognition then settle the succession debate? Let's find out from cultural expert Professor Musa Xulu. Professor, thank you for joining us at eNCA, and I guess that question is a crucial one. Does this then put an end to that question of succession?
Well, thank you very much and good evening. Well, for all practical reasons, this should put an end to all those royal squabbles that have been going on since the year 2021. But of course, you know, there are still two cases that have been lodged by the other two factions challenging the processes that were followed in getting King Musa Xulu to the throne. But as we have been talking here, even as in Sizwe and everywhere else, there is no case to challenge this king. Because as he said, even today, a king is born, a king is really not chosen like in politics. So every factor about him favors that he is born as next king, as current king of the Zulu. It was predestined that it would come to here. So in terms of those challenges, I don't think they stand any chance really, because most of those of succession issues are anthropological. It's customs, traditions. You have to put a case of customs and traditions that are African, Zulu, which are different from, which case must be different from the case that has already been put to the president and to the courts and to everyone else that had been listening to these two factions. So I'm saying that I don't think that it will continue.
But Professor, let's speak, hypothetically speaking, then should these two cases succeed, what will then happen? Will this decision then be reversed?
Well, not necessarily. You see, the problem is there is a process that you follow, which is prescribed by legislation, the 2003 Act, as well as the 2019 Acts. The process says that you have to hold a royal family meeting consisting of all members of the royal family. And then based on that, you take minutes, discussions, you put everything on the table, and everybody agrees, but you can't just do it. You have to say you are basing this on this custom of the Zulus. I think that's where the key is. But hypothetically, as you say, my brother, let's say they become successful. None has said that formally that they want to be the next king. It's still very hypothetical even that assertion that they want to be the next king. No one has gathered the Zulu royal family. No one has written through the premier of the province to the minister of Kokta, to the president. No one has done that. No one. So they've not followed any of the processes. Even if they win there, they will still have to go back and follow those processes, which may be challenged.
Now, Professor, the king, Musa Xulu, ascends to the throne in modern-day South Africa with its own challenges. What are the key issues does King Musa Xulu need to tackle?
Well, look, from May 2021 to today, he was facing what you can call the cultural phase of his ascendancy. But starting tomorrow, he has now to join the rest of his ordinary people to look at the economic situation of the Zulu Kingdom. The ordinary people must be involved and engaged so that they go back to where it was. You know, can I tell you something, that during the reign of King Shaka, there were more cattle than people, than humans in the kingdom of Zulu, and every household was self-sufficient in terms of food security. Why couldn't we go there now? Because there's more people, there's more land, the land is still there to be utilized. I think his next move should be to mobilize knowledgeable people, not necessarily government people, but also government people, but also ordinary people, business, you know, to mobilize the community, the society, to make use of the land, to capitalize on the very rich Zulu cultural heritage, which is known throughout the world, and promote cultural heritage tourism, for example, among the Zulus. And as well as look at other, you know, the Ngonyama Land Trust land is rumored to have lots of mineral resources underground. That needs to be explored for the benefit of the Zulu people. In the same manner, for example, that you have Royal Bafokeng and others that have been able to create models of how you can self-sustain using the resources that you have as a kingdom.
And that's very extensive land that you mentioned there, 2.8 million hectares of the Ngonyama Trust land. And it seems that the incoming king, of course, has a cordial relationship with government. There is that contentious issue that's, of course, brewing in the country around the expropriation of land without compensation. How then does King Musa Xulu tread with the issue of land?
Well, it's not very difficult. The only question that needs to be answered is, to who does the land currently belong? You must remember that it's held in trust by His Majesty the King. Being held in trust is holding the land in trust on behalf of who? There are two possibilities. Possibility A could be on behalf of the Zulu nation. Possibility B could be it is actually state land, which has been given to the Zulu people to utilize. In that case, in both cases, the most important question to ask is, how do we make the Zulu people who are occupying this land to benefit? Now, I know that there's a lot of squabbles even here on this one, because government has on several occasions indicated that they would love to do away with the Ngonyama Land Trust. Of course, that's complicated. If they believe that it is state land and it's proven to be so, they may have a case. But if it's proven that it actually belongs to the Zulu people, then that may be slightly difficult for government to treat. How does the king deal with it? The king needs to quickly appoint his royal council, because in our culture, kings are not executive kings. So he needs to appoint his royal council through which he will be able to allocate a lot of development opportunities and to tread around these issues involving the affected parties. And then he needs also to be able to work with universities as well as voluntary organizations, NGOs, voluntary organizations like Indonza Isizwe, NGOs who are all, actually today I had a meeting with AfriForum, and they were saying that they are very much in favor of participating in the development of the land of the Zulu Kingdom, especially with regards to agriculture and making sure that there's food security. You cannot just deal with government only when it comes to those things, because you need expertise. And expertise is usually not there in those offices, but it's out there. So the king will have to mobilize a lot of stakeholders around him to work with him, and government being one of the stakeholders.
Yeah, Professor, thank you very much for your time and your much welcomed insight. That was cultural expert Professor Musa Xulu.